So this guy has decided that he wants to entertain the idea of you having his babies. Oh my God. Are you okay, girl? How do you feel about this threat? Are you in danger? Okay, I'm going to try and be as kind as possible here because I don't think it's the worst thing ever if a man wants you to have his babies. Also, it's not just men who do that. Like, there's also women who be like, oh my God, I really want to have his babies. We need to talk about this having baby thing because it bothers me a lot. People don't pay enough attention to the complexity of what it means to be a parent. Women, in my opinion, don't pay attention enough to the complexity of what it means to be pregnant. In my personal opinion, having a baby with a man because you are attracted to him is not a good enough reason to have a baby with him. In my personal opinion, having a baby with a man because he has money is not a good enough reason to have a baby with him. There is so much more that has to be considered and weighed in on when choosing to recreate with a man because it's a man. The first point I feel like I have to make before we dive into this particular conversation is, guys, the man that you choose becomes the father that you choose for your children. Also, the man that you choose becomes the lifestyle that you choose for yourself. Lifestyle is very important when you are considering having a child. Just like the man you choose to call your children's father is extremely important because it's not just about him being a provider. I think people have this misconception with my work and my ideas that I'm so money centric, that only money matters. No. Money is not everything, but neither is love. That's why you need both. And it's possible to find both. But the issue here, in my opinion, when it comes to deciding you want to have a man's babies is you guys be fantasizing about having a baby with the wrong man because you have sexual chemistry. Sexual chemistry with a man doesn't mean that you're going to have parental chemistry. Like, you guys might both really be good at sucking each other off, but is there a dynamic where you can both handle a relentlessly disobedient and sensitive child? Like, do you have any concept of that whatsoever? Have you spent time around small children? And I mean prolonged periods, not just fun visiting auntie time. I mean like prolonged periods of time with small children where you've actually had lots of responsibility, so much so that you've gotten a preview into the world of parenting. Have you spent that kind of time? Because I think a lot of women, they idealize this idea of being pregnant because they see it as like a byproduct of the horniness. And you know, we see this a lot, and we hear this a lot in music, where there's a lot of lyrics pointing to this idea of like, you know, not inside me, want to have his babies. I'm so in love with him. I want to be your baby mama, all that stuff. I think it's interesting. Like, we just idealize this idea of being pregnant. But guys, like, pregnancy is a very heavy and most times lonely experience because it's literally just you and the baby inside you for almost a year. And no matter how loving and present and supportive the man is, you're still the only one that's carrying that pregnancy, which is why I'm very against this 50-50 thing, because you're splitting bills with a man, but you're not splitting the pregnancy though. He's not doing 4.5 months of carrying the baby in his tummy and you're doing 4.5 months of carrying the baby in your tummy, is he? No. He's not doing half of the pushing and you're doing half of the pushing when it's time for the baby to reach earthside, is he? No. So I'm not understanding why you're splitting bills with that man, especially if he's gotten you pregnant. Anyway, what I was saying about spending prolonged periods of time with children. If you're someone who is broody, first of all, I'm worried. No, I'm joking, because I think broodiness is fine if you're in a scenario and a situation where you know you're going to be taken good care of. But if you're broody for a broke man, I'm concerned. If you're broody and you've never spent prolonged periods of time around small children, I think your broodiness is uninformed. The reason I say that is because I am in community with very small children. Okay, I'm auntie to so many children because I'm at that age where my friends are having babies. But also just generally, like, you know, the older you get, the more likely it will be that there will be younger people welcomed into your community, right? And so I've had a lot of experience with being around small children and having had experiences where I've had to, you know, babysit for like 2 days straight. And I've babysat children where one is like 1 year old and then the oldest sibling is about 5. And it's a group of children across the age group between 1 and 5. And I'm here in charge of them and I'm learning so much that I didn't think capable of learning, in terms of everything from regulating yourself to learning how to navigate conflicts between small children who are fighting over a toy that neither of them own. Or learning how to support a small child who's constipated and is really scared and uncomfortable, and you don't really know what to do because you can't physically reach up there and get the poo out of them, but you just have to be there, and it's hard to see a child be in pain and to be scared like that. Or being in a scenario with small children where somebody has gone into your bag and has taken your Charlotte Tilbury powder and is holding the powder and is about to put their hand inside the powder and break it, and you have to hold everything within you to not have an explosive reaction to that child, because they don't know what Charlotte Tilbury is, girl. Like, they don't know about the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood finish powder, okay? They don't know what they're holding. They don't know that they're about to ruin your life and lose you 45 pounds. They have no concept of 45 pounds. But you have to find a way as an adult to navigate that without having a blown out disproportionate reaction. Or even just recognizing that the way that we talk to ourselves around small children sets the tone for their own internal voice, especially if you are a grown-up that they see often and they have some sort of attachment to. That affects them. Having children is more than just a fleeting nut, guys. I am heavily against the idea of having babies with a man just because you fancy each other. Because fancying, that feeling is fleeting. That can change. Because I promise you, if that man is broke and you're fancying each other and he puts a baby inside you, I promise you, that man is going to stop being attractive to you very quickly once you find that not only are you now pregnant and dealing with morning sickness, dealing with a loss of appetite, dealing with constant fatigue, dealing with low moods and fluctuating hormones, and the man ain't even helping you. You think you're going to be finding him, oh, but he's got a nice jawline though. You think that's going to matter? Do you think his abs are going to matter when you're now having to go to work while being pregnant and you're constantly feeling faint because the man you allowed to nut inside you can't even take care of you? Do you see why I always say that before you even get to a stage of even marrying a man or even claiming him as boyfriend, he needs to be investing financially in you. Because let's say you're in a really great position with a guy. He's taking care of you good. He's in love with you. So much so that you could tell that he likes you way more than you like him, which is the best place to be, by the way, with men. But you can tell that he likes you way more than you like him. He's generous. He's a provider. And you feel really safe around him. Let's say he gets you pregnant. You know you're not working while you're pregnant, girl. You're not working because he's already been taking care of you from way before the pregnancy happened. And he can afford to continue to take care of you. And you know that he can also afford to take care of the child that's coming financially, because you're not finna work unless you want to. And even if you decide to work, the work you're working is for your own. You're making that money and you're using it for yourself if you want to. Or at a push, you're saving some of the money you make for the children or for the child. Like, it bothers me to see women barebacking anyhow. Like, bareback is a very slippery slope, guys. No pun intended. There's only so many times you could do morning after pill before you realize that, oh man, this time around it didn't work. Now you're pregnant, because now you're going to have to make a decision. Are you keeping it or are you removing it? Because removing a pregnancy, it's not just a walk in the park, guys. Like, there is a recovery period. There is downtime. It fucking hurts. And it is sometimes quite traumatic, depending on what procedure you choose. There is also the fact that, like, being pregnant for however long you're pregnant for, that's also a very odd experience. And you're willing to risk it all for 10 minutes of slipping and sliding. Is everybody okay? Is everybody okay? This is what really scares me, because it's like, I've been there. Thankfully, I've not had a pregnancy scare in my life. Because the reason why I've not had a pregnancy scare is things haven't lasted long enough with a guy for me to get to a stage where I'm barebacking frequently enough to have finally caught a nut. Do you get what I'm saying? There has been times where, yes, I have barebacked when I know I shouldn't have. And at the time when I did that, thank God that was in my earlier 20s. But at the times when I did that, it was from that mindset of like, oh, I really want us to be closer to each other. Like, I thought in my uninformed youthful mind back then that if I was barebacking a guy, then that means that we're much closer. And this is really us being more intimate. And it's like, I don't see it that way. And he's probably barebacking other people as well, girl. Oh my God. For me, now that I'm much older and I am a lot more refined in my outlook, I hold the belief that bareback is only reserved for the man who would do it all for you. The man who will give it all for you, because you risk catching bullets if you bareback, girl. Like, you're gonna get pregnant. It only takes one sperm, you're gonna get pregnant. So for me, it's like, okay, if I'm risking being pregnant, then this has to be worth it. Because imagine, oh my God, imagine having a diabolical baby daddy. Because you know what I take issue with, yeah? And I don't understand why women do this. You see, when you have one baby with a man who is awful, and then you get pregnant by him again, so now you've got 2 kids with the same awful man. I've seen women do this thing where they're like, well, I still want to have more children, and I want all of my kids to have the same father. So I'm just going to have another child with him, even though he's not the man I want to be with, but I don't want to be that woman who has multiple baby daddies. That rationale has never made sense to me. You're better off having multiple baby daddies who are providing for the children that they put inside you than to have one singular baby daddy who is useless, and now you've got more kids with him, so you're struggling even more, all because of the pride of not wanting to be that person that has got multiple baby daddies. It's never made sense to me. It's never made sense to me because I feel like that just comes from a place of internalized misogyny. Like, you think you're better than other women who have got multiple partners, or I should say multiple baby daddies, because you having one singular father for all three of your children somewhat makes you appear to be what? Better? Because now you've got 3 kids all being traumatized by the same person. Because it could be a different scenario where, okay, you've had 2 kids with this one man and things just did not work out, right? But then later on in life, you met another man and things worked out really well. Like, he actually cares about you and he looks after the kids that you came into this relationship with, and you feel broody enough to have a 3rd child with this new man. Go for it, girl. Go for it, because that improves the quality of life of your 2 children who you had before you met him. And he's kind and loving towards them and he wants to take care of you. Duh, girl. Why would you not? Especially if you already know you want to have another child. Rather than clinging onto the same musty baby daddy because you want to have the pride of saying that you only have one man between 3 children. I don't really understand that. I've never understood that. Because if we're going down this idea of like being prideful about this whole baby daddy thing, then you might as well be prideful from the onset on who you're going to allow into your body. So to me, it's like, I've never understood why women cling onto this arbitrary idea of the way the optics will be received, when it's not about how it looks, it's about how it feels. It needs to feel right for you, especially for bringing children into the picture. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. You're doing your unborn children a massive disservice by laying with broke men. Why would you do that to your child? Why would you put your child in a position where one day they're going to huff and puff and be like, oh, I just wish my mum married rich. I wish my mum married rich. Don't put your child in that position. Don't put your child in that position. You could do this so differently. If you have not had a child yet, there is time. There is time to pattern your pussy wisely, girl. Don't give your unborn child a future reason to say, I wish mommy married rich. Okay? Because we could joke about this, but the reality is, it's really, really sad to see children born to fathers that don't want them. It's really sad to see children born to mothers who spend their whole lives fighting to keep men in the picture. Because if your children happen to be girls and they're seeing their mother being a fucking pick-me, you're raising another generation of pick-me's. You're raising a generation of women who are going to also put men above themselves. So this all starts with who you lay with. And that is a variable that you can control if the circumstances in which you met that man were down to you choosing whether or not you're going to entertain him. You have a lot more control over your life than you think you do. And that's why I don't believe in the idea of you can't help who you fall in love with. Yes, you can help it, very much so. Yes, you can. Be strong. Yes, you can. Do you know how many men, especially as I get older, I come across men all the time who are so lovely to me, who, like, they just want to do things for me, and it's cute. And sometimes these are even guy friends as well. Like, one thing about me, right? I've always spoken highly of my guy friends because I pick great men. I pick great men to have as friends. Yeah. And I found that I actually get more out of my guy friends than I get out of men that I've dated in terms of the, how do I phrase this? It's like if you're in a romantic relationship with a man, then there's kind of expectations that you should have of that man. I think you should expect things of men who you're romantically dealing with. But if it's a friendship, it's kind of like more endearing when your guy friends do nice things for you because of how much they care about you. Like I find it's a different kind of sweet. Like it's not the kind of cute where it's like, oh, I fancy him for being so kind to me. It's more like, oh, that's so sweet that you care about me. You've done that for me. I love that. Like, what? You want to help me? Oh my God, that's so sweet. Okay, here's how you can help me. Like one thing about me, I accept the help. Yes. Yes. Always accept the help where it feels right. Like if you're carrying something heavy and your guy friend asks you, can I help you with that? Say yes. Say yes. Let him help you. Because he offered, and as he should. What the hell, girl? But like, why I'm talking about having great guy friends is because I've been able to see that like men are very capable of being kind and loving. And at the same time, when I look at my guy friends and they're being kind and loving to me, I don't feel like, oh my God, he's so kind and loving, I want to have a baby with him. I just see it as, oh, he's so kind and loving. I mean, this is how I should be treated. It's just nice that, you know, he's doing this for me. That's nice. But what it's going to take for me to decide that I want to have a man's babies? I'm I'm in two minds about marriage. I'm really in two minds about marriage. But you know how they say marriage is a commitment? Well, having a baby with a man is an even bigger commitment because that's a person. At least with a marriage, yeah, last, you can divorce. You can go your separate ways. You can't unhave a child, can you? Like, once the child is here, innit? That's responsibility for life. You're bound to that person through that child for life to a certain degree. So, it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot, guys. Like, I don't remember the last time I felt broody. Sometimes I wonder if I actually want to have children. Like, my thing is, I don't even know if I'd make a good mother. And I'm not saying that to be self-deprecating. I mean that in the sense of, like, minor inconveniences really piss me off. And I've spent a lot of time with small children. I'm experienced enough to say that children are a blessing, but if you're in a place in your life where you don't have financial support as well as a supportive man as your partner, if it's men that you want to procreate with, yeah, that's going to be an awful experience, babe. You're going to hate it. And you know what's worse about having kids? If you're neurodivergent and you're easily irritated by noises, by sticky stuff, somebody has taken your thing and misplaced it. Hey, God. Whew. I don't know if I can do it, guys. I don't know if I can do it. If I don't have the resources that I know I'm going to need, I would not make a good mother. Nope. Because to me, what makes a good mother is a mother who recognizes that children are not here to be an extension of our identities. Children are here for them to have their own identities, and our responsibility in those children's lives is to be their earth guardian. So we're here to keep them safe. We're here to support and encourage them, and we're here to provide for them until they are old enough and capable enough to provide for themselves. But at the same time, not every child will be able to get to a stage ever in their life where they might be independent enough to provide for themselves. And I mean that in the context of some people are born disabled and they need more care than somebody who is not disabled. And anybody can have a disabled child. So that means if you're willy-nilly having a baby with a guy because you fancy him, have you considered the possibility that you might have a disabled child? And within that possibility, have you considered, okay, if I was to by chance have a disabled child, has there been an environment facilitated here where there will be enough care, financial stability, and emotional availability for me and my partner to co-raise this child who's going to need a lot more of our attention than a non-disabled child? These are things you have to consider, because in the grand scheme of things, all children are a blessing. Disabled children are a blessing. Naughty children are a blessing. Quiet and awkward children are a blessing. Exuberant and loud children are a blessing. All children are a blessing. But there are some blessings that we're not ready for, and that's okay. I know that if I was to have a child, it would be such an honor. But if someone was to ask me right now if I was to magically put a baby inside you right now, like, would you feel ready? No, I would not. The child will be taken away from me by social services with quickness. I don't think you understand. in theory, I would make a great mom, but theory is not reality, guys. Do you know what I would say I am? I'm a better auntie than I am a mother, and I'm actually okay with that. Like, I have the emotional availability and the resources to be a really good auntie. I can vouch for myself and say that I am a fucking awesome auntie. Okay? The kids in my life, I know that they are so fond of me, and I'm deeply fond of them too, because I give them something that their parents can't give them. And it's not because their parents are not enough, it's because their parents are operating at maximum capacity. There's only so much a parent can do, and that's why community matters. So it might be that you don't need to have that man's babies. You could just be an auntie, and that's okay too. Like, just because you're fertile doesn't mean that you need to have a baby. And this is something that I think about a lot for myself. Like, I know that I'm fertile. I've never had a pregnancy scare before, but I don't need to have a pregnancy scare to trust and know that I'm fertile. Like, I just know that I'm fertile. I just know. But when I think about the children that I'm in community with and how they see me and how they behave when I'm around, like, there was one time, one of the children, he's a bit funny with food sometimes, and sometimes he just decides he doesn't want to eat, and he's not eating all day. And you know, it's a hard thing to see a child not having eaten all day and they're refusing to eat just because they don't want to eat. So one time I was with him and his parents when he was doing that, and I was like, should auntie feed you? And he said yes, even though he was headstrong to his mom that he's not going to eat, because that's part of him just being a 4-year-old. For some reason, when I said, should auntie feed you? He agreed and let me feed him. And he ate. And I felt so accomplished that day. I felt so proud that because of me, he's eaten. Because children can be so weird sometimes. Like, there's a lot happening at once. They can actually be hungry and still decide to refuse food because for some reason they want to be petty. For some reason, there's this refusal to listen to their mum's instructions. So mum has said they should eat, they don't want to eat. But for some reason, if they get that interaction with auntie, it's different. It's a different novelty. So now they're going to eat because auntie is going to feed me. And because I made him feel a bit babied, like, because I think sometimes another thing as well is like, if parents have multiple children and maybe there's like the youngest child is getting the most attention because they're literally a baby, and maybe the older kids are like 4 or 5, we forget that those 4 or 5-year-olds are technically, they're kind of still babies in their own way. So as auntie, I kind of baby them a bit because they don't get that from their parents anymore. It's only the youngest child that gets the babying. So when I come over, they get to experience that sort of like feeling more attention in a way that their parents can't give them that particular attention. They are not in any way neglected by their parents at all. It's just that there's fun stuff that I can do with them that they just don't get that from their parents. And that's why I think it's so key that you don't have to have babies for you to play a fulfilling role in a child's life. Because I think for a lot of women, why they say they want to have babies is because they want to repair an inner child thing. And I really, really resonate with that. And at the same time, I think you can still vicariously create that repair through a child who you didn't birth. And I promise you, it will feel just as rewarding, because what you want as well is to play a role in a child's life where you can be another safe space for them as an adult. So much so that there might be things that they'll be able to tell you that they can't tell their parents. And you will have your own way as an adult of navigating that with their parents without ruining that trust you've built with that child. Like, there is so much that goes into being an auntie that it's similar territory of being a parent. It's just that when shit gets too much, you can hand them back to your parents and you can go home. And I prefer that to being a full-time parent right now anyway, at 29 years old. So the last point I want to make is, just because you fancy a man doesn't mean you need to have his babies. And just because you're feeling broody doesn't mean you need to have babies, because babies are people, and babies are only babies for like 3 years. And then after that, they're a person who is absorbing everything they're witnessing and observing from you. And that forms the foundation for their own identity. And you are responsible for how that child views their self. And it's a big, huge weight to carry. And it's not for everyone. And I just don't think that motherhood is for everyone. Like, even if you're such a nice person like myself, doesn't mean you have to be a mum. You probably be a better auntie than a mum, and that is okay too. So shout out to the aunties of our society, okay? We don't get National Auntie Day, which is fine, but we got to celebrate ourselves as aunties too, and recognize that when we're not catching nuts and being pregnant, we're still playing a key role in our communities, and that is having a bigger impact than you could ever imagine. And if you're someone that isn't fertile but wishes you could have kids, don't forget that you can still play a role in a young person's life, and it will be just as impactful as if you were their own parent, because of the level of availability that you have for that young person. So thank you for listening. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next episode.